Hey friends, it's Alex, and today I just wanted to talk about the Heartstopper Netflix show because it came out on Friday. It's Sunday now. I've already watched it twice, like all 8 episodes twice. And I just wanted to talk about it because I love it so much. This video will contain like minor spoilers, mainly for how the books were adapted into the show, not necessarily for the plot itself, if that makes sense, but like spoilers for like which characters may have been left out or things not necessarily happening in the same order or stuff like that. So if you haven't seen it and you don't want to know any of the little details like that, don't watch this video yet. Come back when you've watched the show. So if you haven't somehow already heard, Heartstopper is a graphic novel series by Alice Oseman, and it follows Nick and Charlie. So, Nick, Charlie. And Charlie is Tori Spring's brother, and Tori Spring is the main character of Alice's first book, Solitaire. And in Solitaire, Nick and Charlie are a couple. And so then Heartstopper goes back to like the beginning and their like couple origin story, and it's just the cutest thing I've ever consumed in my entire life, and it will probably continue to be so because it's so pure. So Solitaire, I'm pretty sure first came out in 2014, so we were first introduced to these characters 8 years ago. It has been 8 years of Nick and Charlie existing in all of their adorableness, and now we have a Netflix show about them, and like honestly it's just so amazing to see. The first Heartstopper graphic novel, so Heartstopper Volume 1, this physical book was first published in 2018, but it was originally released as a webcomics and I didn't read it as a webcomic, so it was available to consume before then. And then Alice put it up on Kickstarter, so my copy of Heartstopper Volume 1 is actually the Kickstarter copy. And after that it was picked up by Hodder, and then they've just been releasing more volumes. So it's up to 4 volumes. I think there's only going to be 5, which makes me very sad. And yeah, so the Heartstopper graphic novel series follows Nick and Charlie and their relationship and how they meet each other and get to know each other, and how they eventually get together, and it's so cute. And so I don't know how other people felt, but for me, given that I've known these characters for 8 years and loved them for 8 years, I did have quite high expectations of the show, and I was really worried that it wasn't going to live up to my expectations. Like I had a very specific thing that I wanted, and I was really worried it wasn't going to live up to that. And then on top of that as well, I think the fact that they were adapting a graphic novel meant that, you know, all the scenes already had a way they happened, if that makes sense, like visually happened. Like when you're adapting a novel, you know, things look a certain way in your head, but you may just invent certain features or like put a certain colour onto something that isn't necessarily what it was, or maybe something wasn't specifically described in the novel, so you just make it up. And so all those things aren't necessarily as important, I guess. I don't really know what I'm trying to say there, but like with a graphic novel, like we already know what the characters look like because I don't know if you can see that. They've already been like drawn, and we already know how certain scenes went and what was in the background and where they were standing and all of this kind of stuff because it was a graphic novel. I feel like that comes with a bit of an extra challenge, like there's more to stick to and there's more already done. I don't know if I'm making any sense. And then also, like I said, the characters already look a certain way. They've already been drawn, and like this is what they look like this is how the creator has made them look. And so there were all these things. But then on the other hand, I feel like because it was a graphic novel, it kind of made it easier to adapt in a way. Like I feel like in a graphic novel, because it's all like there's quite these big panels of drawings and not necessarily a lot of text, and so less happens in the same amount of pages as a physical novel, if that makes sense. So there was less material for them to work with, so they could get more of it in. I really hope I'm making sense. And so yeah, the point of that was I had like a lot of expectations based on all of that and like what we already had, and I wanted it to be what it already was in the graphic novel. And so I was quite worried going into it that it wouldn't be what I wanted, or like the casting wouldn't feel right to me. Obviously the casting of every movie feels right to someone, but I just wanted it to feel right to me. Let me tell you right now, it was perfect. It was utter perfection. The casting was amazing. It was adapted so well, like it follows the books so closely. So we only have one series so far, and that series pretty much just follows volumes 1 and 2. There is a little bit of overlap into volume 3, like there's 1 or 2 events that happen in volume 3 that happen in the first season of the TV show, of the Netflix show even. But yeah, it's mainly just volumes 1 and 2, and it was done so well. Like there were a few things that were changed. There was one character added, and I didn't mind it. Normally I kind of hate that kind of thing, but I didn't mind it so much. So this character's called Imogen, and it didn't bother me the way I thought it would, and the way it normally does when these characters get added in and it almost seems like it's for no reason. Like it felt kind of natural having her in there. And then the other thing was that Aled wasn't in it, and he's in the books, and he's also in Radio Silence, which is one of my favourite things, is like the crossover. And so the fact that he wasn't in it made me a bit sad, but they had like Isaac instead. So yeah, the cast was literally perfect. Like the guy they got to play Charlie, Joe Locke, looks like Charlie. The guy they got to play Nick, Kit Connor, looks like Nick. The girl they got to play Elle, her name is Yasmin Finney, and she just looks like Elle, and she's also trans, which is just amazing. Like trans actors playing trans characters, yes. And the guy they got to play Tao, who's William Gow, perfect. He looked exactly like Tao. Like everyone just looked like they looked like the real life human embodiment of Alice's drawings, and it was just amazing. And then they all played their characters perfectly, and they were all how I saw them in the graphic novel. I'm such a mess. It was so perfect. So I watched the show on Friday after work. I watched all 8 episodes, and then on Saturday I reread the first 2, but I also read the other 2, but specifically reread these 2 to see how they compared, and it was like so close. Like there were word for word quotes like throughout the whole thing. At some points like Charlie will be texting his friends, or he'll be texting Nick, and it will show the text message conversation in the book. I'm just trying to find an example, but I feel like that's going to be hard. So it will show the text message conversation in the book, and then in the show they also showed the text message conversation. They showed like put the camera over the phone screen, and it was word for word what it was in the book. Like they just use the same. I know that's such an easy thing to do the same, but like so many adaptations don't do those easy things the same, even though they're so easy to do the same. And so it was just so nice to see them do the same. So there was like this scene in the graphic novel, and they actually did this shot in the show. Like they did a shot of them at that angle sitting on the stool together. It was just, they followed it so closely, and it was so amazing, and I loved that so much. Like it was so nice to see these books that I love so much adapted so faithfully. And like there were little changes, and they didn't bother me, because I feel like some of them they would have struggled to make it work quite as well if they didn't make those little changes. And so like, oh, it's just perfect. Another thing that I really loved was Kit and Joe did such a good job of making like the growing romance between their characters just as adorable as it is in the graphic novel. Like it was just so cute to watch, and I was like sat there watching the entire time like this. It's just, they all just did such a good job, and it was just so well adapted, which I suppose makes sense because like Alice Oseman herself helped and like was a part of it, so she could make sure it was adapted the way it needed to be adapted. And then like a little small thing, but I also really like in loads of the scenes you could see Alice's art, like they would have some leaves float across the page, but it would be Alice's drawings. So like the leaves on the spine of the book. And then there'd be like little hearts and all these little animated bits that looked like Alice's drawings, and it was just, there was such a nice touch. I really, really liked that. The soundtrack was also really, really good. I will leave a link to the playlist that Netflix shared, which is like all the songs that were actually in the show, because I think there's like an official soundtrack, but it's not the songs that were in the show. I don't really understand it. So I'll leave the playlist that Netflix shared in the description if you want to just find all the songs that were in the show. So yeah, the wrap up of that is that I love Heartstopper, and the show was just absolute perfection. I've already watched it twice. I'm almost definitely going to watch it again today. It's just so perfect. And if you haven't watched it or read the graphic novels, you really, really, really need to. So we have no news, as far as I'm aware, if there's going to be a series 2. I really want there to be. There's still 2 more graphic novels to adapt, plus a 5th one to come out. So there's plenty of material for a series 2. And also, I'm really behind on this because this was tweeted in December last year, I think. But Alice has tweeted that if there is a series 2, they have big asexual plans, and I'm just like, yes. It just makes me so excited that there is going to be asexual representation in the series 2, if there is a series 2. And then I'm also just really keen to see how these ones are adapted, because they start to get like much kind of into darker and heavier topics, like they go into mental illness a lot more. And then this one as well is slightly formatted differently, so it'd be interesting to see how it works. I also feel like there's like, especially with the way this one's written, there's room for like a lot of fleshing out and a lot of TV show, which makes me really excited. I really hope that we get another series. So yeah, that was basically all my thoughts on this beautiful, beautiful adaptation of these wonderful graphic novels. If you haven't watched it and you watched this video anyway for some reason, please go watch it. It's so lovely and wonderful and heartwarming, and it's just such a feel-good series. Like there are like, it's not all happy, there are some sadder moments or some not nice moments, but it's overall it's just such a feel-good series, both the books and the Netflix show. It's just perfect. I honestly could not have asked for a better adaptation. If you have seen the Netflix show, please let me know what you thought of it. Let's talk about it together. It's all I want to talk about right now. It's all I want to consume. I've just been like looking through Twitter at what people are saying about it, and looking through Instagram at pictures people have shared, and rewatching it and listening to the music from it, and it's all I'm consuming at the moment. So please leave comments down below. Let's talk about it. Let's just gush about how much we loved it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it made some sort of sense. Please like and subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!